Okay, welcome to Mori, episode 17. I'm here with Navid, Ioi, hey, Ioni, something like
Ioni,
that.
that's
What?
me.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Devs of Garganta. That's basically a inspired game by the works of Nihei, Tsutomu. Say hi.
What's up?
Yes,
So, first question. Why Nihei? Why? What took you the inspiration from his works to make a game?
you want to go
Uh,
first, Nick?
yeah, sure. I mean, for me personally, ever since I read the Blame manga, and his other works as well, I just haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I've
Mm,
been making games and art for a while, like all throughout uni. Pretty much my projects have been inspired by his works in some way. Uh, I'm
mm.
just, I've always been really interested in dark, concrete, brutalist structures, and his mangas sort of take that to an extreme, infinite level.
Oh yeah.
And I really want to make more games in that sort of setting.
Okay. Nice, nice, nice. So, have you been a long time Blame fan, or like for a few years, or?
Uh, I actually found out about Blame like maybe 3 years ago when I think PewDiePie made a video on it.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people found out about it in that way, but yeah, ever since then for me. What about you, Yoni?
For me, I think I found out about Blame. Uh, I, d- I think if I remember correctly, I was just in a manga store trying to find something unrelated, and I bumped into one of his works. I don't remember if it was Blame or if it was some other Nihei work, but that's
Mhm.
how I ended up finding out that he exists, and
Mm.
eventually that's how I bought the first copy of Blame. I bought it's actually a birthday gift from my parents, and
Yeah,
I wasn't really
good
thinking
gift.
about buying. Yeah, it was a good gift. I wasn't thinking about it, like buying the copies myself, because I just thought like I haven't really been ever much on collecting
Mm.
manga. I like
Yeah.
reading books a lot, but like manga's expensive hobby to have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't initially want to do that, but when my parents got me the first copy of the first one, I
Mm.
have this absolutely unhealthy obsession that if I have the first of a collection of things, I
You
want
gotta have
the
the
entire
rest.
collection. So I didn't want to have one copy of Blame. I wanted to have all of them. So I have now
Of
all of
course,
them.
naturally.
$200 right off the neck. So
Right.
um, yeah, but it was
200.
definitely worth
Okay.
it. Definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's also been a journey, you could say. I mean, I've been like from 2016, also from a video of PewDiePie, like
Hell yeah.
why am I so embarrassed or something like that, talking about manga, and at the end of the thing came on Blame. I'm like, that's interesting. And months later, I bought the first Blame Master Edition, the relatively new editions. And since then, I've been collecting, well, goddamn everything, really. I literally have everything, even scanned
Good
into
taste.
stories that's never been online before or haven't been online for a long while. Just really short works that, yeah, nobody would bother to put online. So, yeah.
Oh wow,
Mm.
that's awesome.
And, yeah. And also, I'm the mod of RSS Netsphere, the central hub for NEA Works, basically, on Reddit.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I've like every edition of what NEA ever put out, different versions of Blame, Abra, Biomecha, Noise, the list goes on, basically. So, yeah, I'm a big NEA fan, you could say. I'm a bit obsessed, you could say.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. And for the game, how did that went in production?
Started off as a
Uh,
uni project. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's right. We began in university in 2020, I think it was. Yeah, it was in 2020, and the
Hmm.
middle of 2020, and
Ah,
basically the
COVID.
way we studied together in RMIT, and in
Mm.
RMIT the way that they basically split up the courses, and in the final year you do very long intense projects as opposed to smaller, short assignments. So in
Mm-hmm.
the final year, we got our group together, and it was basically, me, Nick, and two more other guys, Nathan and Matt, and yeah, the idea, I think, was like, it was very early that like it didn't take a lot of conceptualizing for us to know exactly what we wanted to do.
Mm.
We wanted right away, like me and Nick, we are the two people in the group who have already actually read Blame, and
Yeah.
we very early on we agreed that like we don't really mind what the gameplay of the game is like. We mind that it looks visually like that, and that's what we wanted. We wanted something that looks very good and reminds you of Nihei's work. But
Mm-hmm.
the gameplay, actually, originally we were going to make it a puzzle game, but then we
Yeah.
realized that was going to be too hard. That was a very, very long time ago. Very funny story. Like, it used to be a game about being careful. Actually, it used to be like about trying to trying to traverse the area as slowly and meticulously as you could. But then
Mm-hmm.
we accidentally made the character controller way too good, I guess. Or like it was too nice, and people just wouldn't be careful. They just started running around and doing everything open quotes wrong. And
Okay.
we realize, yeah, like the game is telling us that it is not a puzzle game, it's a running game. So we just
Yeah.
completely
It's a
flipped the
parkour game.
idea. Yeah, exactly. We just flipped it all together and just made it this. Well, everybody likes parkour, then you get parkour. And then we just made the entire game about that. And in terms of visuals, it was mostly like, well, Nick is the art director, so he can speak more on that. But it's basically that. It's like he's the one who knows exactly what the visual of the whole thing would look like from the very beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, pull it up here, and it's like, yeah, I remember like maybe a year ago or longer that I played a demo of it on Reddit. One of you two posted back then, and it just didn't run on a potato computer. It's really for the more high-end computers. Mine is just really weak, so I could just play it about the lowest setting or something. I was just a bit of parkouring, so I couldn't really play it
Mm.
back then, and. But yeah, it really from the trailers and art, it really looks like it's in the world of Blame, just this giant mecha structure. You have no clue what is at any corner or what creature would more come out or like what you know how Blame is just everything all over the place all the time.
Absolutely. Um, for me, I really wanted to capture the mood of Blame through the environments, just how desolate and oftentimes chaotic it felt. Obviously, Blame being like a black and white monochrome manga, you, I mean, apart from like some of the color pages in the later volumes, you don't really see how chaotic it can be in terms of like the atmosphere, the lighting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I really wanted to convey that in our game as well.
Mm-hmm. And have you been inspired by other projects that try to do a NES game or like some
Oh
sort of thing?
yeah, like absolutely. My favorite would probably be Naissance on
Ah,
Steam, also free on Steam. Great
yeah, I know it.
game. Like just I don't know, the level design of that game really I'm really enamored with it, and I wanted to try and achieve something similar in the beginning when it was a bit of a slower game, when we actually had a crouch mechanic and you could like squeeze into tight spaces. But
Mm.
now it's more, well, it's a lot bigger. You really have to double jump across some pretty vast chasms now. But
Yeah,
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 I think mostly Naissance was a big influence, but outside of like Nihei works, it was like Half-Life, Portal. I've always been a big fan of those games.
mm. Yeah, I remember Neons. It's like really experimental game that just you just explore this huge structure. You have just no clue what's going on or how to really interact with anything. You can just go anywhere you want, like a real NEA game. Only it's just not a game for everybody. It's just a really experimental game that just does whatever. Really,
Yeah,
is yeah. I mean, I have. I've also played it, never finished it for some reason, and also have it on my list that I made on the Discord. Also, a huge list of all kinds of game projects for Nihei, like from 2002 till now. So I'm like, there's a
Yeah,
huge library of that kind of stuff. So
I gotta
yeah,
commend you for that list because there's a lot of projects on there that I haven't even heard of. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty good resource. But
mm.
I think like one of the biggest reasons Naissance and Half-Life and Portal I really love,
Mm.
like in those games, there's a feeling
Okay.
of like you're headed somewhere, but you don't particularly know where.
Hmm.
But you're just going forward in any best way you can, and I sort of tried to do that with Garganta as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't really know what's going on or like where you want to go or where you want to set off that kind of
Yeah, you're like
games.
at the mercy of the world, really.
The
Mm,
story
mm,
has
mm.
also got a little bit of that in that is that like it's deliberately we try to make everything just very very well not obscure but more just like not deliberately shown to your face, even though it's still something that we're perfecting as we evolve the writing and everything. But
Mm.
in a way, I guess it's also attempting to encapsulate a little bit of what Nihei does with his writing, which is like he doesn't write at all as per se, which is that like
No,
his he has a story, sure, but the majority of it isn't even said, and
no, you have to
it's
figure it out.
yeah, that's right. And that's something that like I think that our game doesn't really do perfectly just yet. I think it's something that we can probably pull more towards, honestly. But it's an idea. But
Yeah.
I think story wise, it would be more of something that it would be. I think the fairer comparison would be Portal. That like
Yeah,
there
Mm.
is a more interactive element to it. Like you can talk to people, open
Yeah.
quotes people. You talk to other beings and there is
Mm.
information to be understood and everything, but it isn't, even though there's quite a lot for you to hear and there's actually quite a lot of conversation and dialogue, uh, not every aspect of what you're being told is, very obvious for you to understand. And sometimes you're
Yeah.
going to have to actually like kind of, if you want to know the story, you're going to have to probably find some secret things and maybe read between the lines, that thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, with Nia is like, especially his first work, it's just like the characters know what's going on and they know certain other characters or certain other events, but they never tell you. It's never told through like you tell to an audience. Like most manga, just tell through an audience, like with a whole, a wall of text telling you everything about the world, which is not that bad for some works. But for works like this, it wouldn't just work just to explain you everything because that would lose the magic of it, obviously. So
yeah,
yeah. And obviously with Nie's work, it's more like in the beginning he never made a manga before. Yeah, he only made Blame 1995. That was just a one shot, far before Defense of Blame, basically. That's in the end of Noise. And he would just draw whatever he came up with, especially in the beginning. He had no clue, especially like in the very beginning of Blame. You have this mental race just flying about, and like, why the hell are the flying mental race in a world like this? And that's just an idea that never comes up again. Or
yeah,
like,
exactly.
or stuff like you meet a girl and her dog, for instance, and take out the body. Yeah, and you never see dogs after that. So it's just all kinds of ideas. It's just sprung together. It's probably not a real dog. It's probably like something like made in a lab or something like that. Or how can you have, how can you find a book in a world that there's no books anymore? Like, who made that? Who? Yeah, what's the mystery of that? It's all kinds of questions, y'all. I see all the time on the subreddit or on Discord that people keep asking all different stuff that people keep asking, or like more dumber stuff they keep asking for some reason. Like at
Yeah,
the moment, we're also making a NEA website with questions and all the links I collected over the years, the game projects, other works that's been inspired by NEA, and etc. So we're slowly building that up. Have the majority already in place, so that will be released like maybe at the end of the year, maybe next year. We have no clue really, but yeah, it's
Oh,
looking
awesome.
good so far. Maybe we can
Yeah,
show that a bit. Let me
for
see.
sure. Yeah.
While you get that up, I think what one funny thing you were mentioning is also that like it's a very recurring thing in Blame for you. Like if there's ever a new character introduced a long way, they die. That's
Yeah,
just like the
yeah, they don't
every
survive
character
long.
who, yeah, every character in the story that is introduced to you is like dies. I'm not even kidding. I'm pretty sure that like the only ones. Well, I mean, I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know Blame pretty well, so I'm just gonna say like spoiler
Majority
warning,
of us,
skip
yeah.
ahead, I guess. But nah, if like basically the only characters who actually really survive until the very end are like Kiri, and only kinda, and I think well in a way the child of Saibo, and
Yeah, Sibo, yeah.
yeah, and that's it. Like no one else really survives. Every other character dies.
Yeah. It's a very harsh world. It's like basically Nie was in the beginning of Blame was not in the best of in the best mindset, you could say. He didn't like people. He was really afraid of death. That's why all his characters are immortal, or like almost immortal for the majority. Like the main characters are immortal, or like he was really a shut in, you could say. Didn't really talk to many people. So that's why you see really that mindset reflected in Blame. So, yeah, it's a harsh world that nobody ever survives. I mean, Sibo has to change from like 9 bodies to get to the level 9 Sibo that we see at the end to get through the whole of Blame. And Kiri just once, well, he gets taken down by Sibo when she is at level 9. And yeah, and obviously memory plays also a big deal in Blame because uh, Keely just forgets a lot of stuff because he's been walking around for thousands of years through the structure. So the majority of his memory from before is just replaced, has errors, or just doesn't work anymore. So you just yeah, he's just like you in a sense. Only he doesn't know a little bit more about the whole structure. And yeah, for the works itself, there's theories that there's an overarching universe where because you see Toei Industries popping up everywhere, but yeah, that's still up in the air. It's like the only thing that's really canon is noise, and that's about it. And from Blame Academia, Blame Gag One, the point
Oh
with the
yeah,
different
those
one shots.
ones.
Yeah, with Blame doing it and Natural Engineer and that kind of stuff. Those are the only ones that really canon. It happens after Blame. But then, yeah, it's a it's a lot to take in, especially for new fans. That's why there's like, have you guys seen the movie, like the Blame movie?
I did.
Ah,
Yeah, but I've already forgotten like most of what happened. It was okay, I think. Not the best, but okay.
yeah. It's not really for Nia fans. It's more like for a starting
Um,
audience, you
it's
could
a
say.
Yeah.
Like,
mainstream more.
Nia.
It's a more mainstream attempt at
Yeah.
making that appealing, I suppose.
Yeah. It's not the most. Yeah, like a lot of the characters are modified. Sanakon looks like somebody with pet kittens or something like that. Other
Yeah.
stuff is like doesn't really work. Really translate to the manga as well, or like other events are just smashed together and just get a different story, etc., etc., etc. I said it a million times before, but yeah, it's yeah, but we have a more faithful, yeah, you could say more faithful version from like 2003. This ONA, it's like an was made for Nia's first website that he made in like 2001, two or something like that. Blame that. As like a 7 episode short episodes of the manga series, but it's just all kinds of events. But it has the right atmosphere for the manga and it's the right design and the more uh, experimental outlook on it. It's all on YouTube, all on 1080p. Somebody made it fit for everything, all at once, so really easy to find.
I heard of that, but I've never actually watched it. And I have no clue what it looks like. I think I need to get around to watching it someday. Sounds
Probably
interesting.
should. We probably should. I also haven't seen it myself.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. It's also made from 2007, also two shorts. Also with Sanakon in it and different characters. It's really short. I thought it's barely anything, but it's the first one that's in CGI. And 10 years from then, 2017, the movie came out. So already then he had 3D in his mind to make his work 3D for the animes, for instance. But yeah, it makes sense to make it 3D, obviously, with a world like that and how advanced it is. But it's just, the CGI is not really that advanced enough to really make it shine or anything like that. So that's kind of difficult. Oh, yeah, here you see gifs of the 2003 one. Just a
Ah,
small bit,
okay.
but yeah.
Definitely very different.
Yeah. Yeah. So about the design of the game, you just first it was more of a stealth game, more like trying to explore the thing, and now it's just more like trying to get as fast as possible to a certain location via parkour. And what's the goal of the game? Like, who do you need to defeat, or what do you need to get to?
I guess. Well, Nick, do you reckon that I just spoil how the ending goes, or do you think probably not,
Well,
right?
not really spoil, but just given
Yeah. Okay. I won't spoil
kind
how
of
the end goes, but
rundown.
like it's but there's basically like this in a way, I guess it's not very different from Silicon Life. That the Silicon Life's goal is to just destroy all material, so organic
Mhm.
life in the world. And there's a villain in this game that is a very mysterious one and communicates only rarely with you. That
Mhm.
has a he seemingly he's supposed to do something really bad, but you don't know exactly what he's doing. So it's very inspired by the Silicon Life, but I would say that the difference is Silicon Life is something you can see. They appear before you. You can actually see their bodies and everything. Whereas the enemy in the game we made is something that is more that he sometimes contacts you and he sometimes makes it so that his presence is known, but
Mhm.
he is not exactly. He's more of like the perceived fear, like something you don't actually see, but you imagine what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay. Driven by an AI, probably.
Well, that you just have to play the game and see, I think.
Yeah. Of course.
I'm just being annoying.
The main question sort of presented by that character, like his whole thing is that he's an AI that has somehow managed to look beyond the event horizon of a black hole. And
Mm.
the knowledge within there has driven him completely insane. So he's like
Mm.
hell bent on the destruction of the entire universe, essentially, which
Mhm.
is what you're racing to stop throughout the entire game.
So a bit of eldritch horror, you could say, seeing the
Yeah,
unknown and what's
some
beyond that.
cosmic horror, yeah.
Pretty much, yep.
Mhm.
In that
So you
way,
also. Hmm?
y- yeah, sorry. I was also quite inspired by some stories from the SCP Foundation because there's a
Ah.
lot of like cosmic, like beyond your comprehension horror in that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
You also have read some Lovecraft stuff.
I
Funny you say
actually,
that because
yeah.
I'm currently in the process of reading every single one of Lovecraft's books. I have
Mm.
a big ass book that is like 1,000 something pages long, and it's
Mm.
Damn.
every book that Lovecraft has ever written in his entire life, including like stuff he wrote when he was a child, all the way down to his adult life. And it has every book in there. So I'm halfway right now, but
Sweet.
yeah, it's a very thick read.
Yeah.
I would say that it definitely has, conceptually speaking, our story definitely has elements of the Lovecraft in there, which is the, as Nick was saying, it's like the unknowable horror of something that's terrible, but
Hmm.
you don't quite comprehend just the scale of what it is that we are talking about and
Yeah,
how
yeah,
bad it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
So conceptually speaking, definitely a Lovecraftian story for sure.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, yeah, I've read bunch of his stories. The Mountain of Madness, and some other stories we read. I actually read from another podcast, for Insane's podcast, if you ever heard about that. He also made a lot of Blame fits. He also made some podcast episodes on of Blame, Biomecha, any of his works, Abra, any of his works basically. And we also, at the end of that, we also did a bunch of Lovecraft stories. Especially he wanted to do a lot of Lovecraft stories. But yeah, it's a bit that difficult to read because of the language he uses. Obviously, he makes the most easiest of stuff. Uses the most difficult words for it. Well, you can just really easily explain it because you don't have to over explain it, which he also really loves for, like, explaining how a room looks and how a certain creature looks, or the design of it, the color, the width, the length, etc., etc., etc. It makes it for an interesting read, obviously, because you can just really imagine how the world would look like, and somebody can really recreate it in games or in fiction or whatnot. But yeah, it's not the most easiest of reads, I could say. I also have a book of him on my shelf, but I haven't read too much of it because I'm not really a big reader on books, you could say. So yeah.
Yeah, he is very funny because he simultaneously is very generous with the details that he's willing to say about
Mm.
like the things that are horrible and everything, but he also often says on the book itself like, "Oh, it's too terrible to describe," and then he goes on and describes it anyways.
Yeah.
So he says so, like there's it's a very funny because again, especially for me because I'm reading every single one of his books back to back nonstop, so it would probably not feel that way if you are reading only one of his books because you only have one book for reference. But I've read more than 20 now of his stories, and I can
uh,
tell you that he does this repeatedly. It's hilarious. It's if you
mm.
he always does exactly the same formula of like it's too terrible to tell you, and then he gives a 5-page description of what it is, and it's really it's funny, but at the same time like it's horrifying.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It still works. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the
It works.
Mountains of Madness, I thought, like, it was kind of like at the end of, like, winding down. Like the horror was kind of leaving, as well, not particularly at the end, at the last page of the thing, but it was kind of winding down. You could just make a better version of that, of the ending, when they actually escape the mountains and the huge complexes that they found. But oh well, I mean, it's over 100 years ago, so it's
Yeah.
not too easy to go back and tell them that. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lots of projects, especially now. It's really popular. Just republications, other stuff that's being put out because it's all free now. There's no copyright on it anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, Lovecraft is definitely one of the most not just accessible, but one of the most referred artists when it comes to this sort of stuff. Like he like people, for example, like Stephen King. If you're going to read like the books of Lovecraft, you sometimes can read like how sometimes other authors give reference to another author to, and it's kind of like a calling card for you to read the book. So like it says on
Mm.
the cover of the book, it says Stephen King really likes this book. So then you will go ahead and read it. And then yeah, people like
Yeah.
Stephen King, Kubrick, I think the film director even said that he's a big fan of his. I think, don't quote me on it, I don't remember very well, but
Mm.
I think he was talking about The Shining when he said that. But yeah, definitely very much a like a very very well renowned character in the world of horror.
Mm. 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 Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's the same with the game Signalis, if you ever heard of that. That's also based on Nihei and what's again? The King in Yellow. Yeah, yeah, those were heavily inspired by the King of Yellow. The book is also a really great horror game. It's just like there's a mission that a clone, an android clone of somebody, goes to a base and tries to find them, but it just gets deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, and there's some kind of virus loose, and it just makes all the androids go mad, and you just go deeper and deeper, deeper into this puzzle, into your own puzzle, basically. It's pretty.
What
It's
was the name of
also
the game?
pretty good. Signalis. Wait, let me.
Ah, I gotta check that out. I keep
I
seeing
also
fan out of
haven't
it on
played it.
Twitter, but yeah,
I don't think I've played it either, but I'm happy to. Well, you don't have to sell me on any video games. Just give me.
if it's
Yeah,
Nihei
yeah,
inspired, I gotta check it out.
yeah, this is really. I also have for the PlayStation 4, but yeah.
Interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, so
Yeah,
there's a.
definitely would give that a play after this.
Yeah, yeah, you should. It's like there's also I like with a lot of blame games. It's like only the inspired works work or like are finished. All the games that are directly on blame that or all these other works are never finished. There's like lots of projects that just never came to light. It's like just half finished or just have some or just the ID became too difficult or they had no time anymore or whatever ideas they had just never came to be. Majority of the time that I collected all these games and different projects that were on back in the day. Like the only work that's really been finished was like from 2002, but I was just but I was just in an playable and well, it's not an engine, but it's like something something like Gary's mod, but then different. You can just make your own game in the thing and just run with that around. But that's the only project that really finished ever, and the rest is just all concept art or like this one guy tried to make a biomecha game, and halfway the game was like, "Oh, I don't have copyright for this. Oh, let me let me not finish this." I'm like, "Yeah, you could have." Thought of that like ages ago, then just go ahead or just make one. Who gives a shit? But yeah, it's Japan, so copyright is a really big thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something that actually got us a little bit worried at one point. Like, oh, are we doing something that's a bit too similar? But then we realized that, like, not really, because the story is completely different,
Yeah.
and the gameplay doesn't really reflect the what the manga is all about. The manga is a whole all about solitude
Hmm.
and the feeling of like what an immortal life truly means when you actually have endless time but in nothing to do with it. And
Yeah.
that's not really the point of our work. Ours is more of like a how small you are in the universe and everything, which is I guess another theme of blame for sure, but it's not the only thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's also a lot of action, obviously, but for Kitty's perspective, this is like single dots in like 1,000-year walks, for instance. Like he tries to look for Toev Industries, for instance, with Sibo. It's like they received an emergency call, and like you see, like this many hours later, like 10,000 hours later, something. It walked like for a century to get to that. It's like what we see in 1 second or something like this, with a few flip pages or something like that. But yeah, it's like lots of different things going on there.
I always
Mm,
found those sort of like time skip segments really weird. Just the way Nihei wrote them. Like he never wrote them in years. He would always write them in like hours or some shit like that. Like why not just write them in years? I always find that a little
mm.
weird, but it really puts into perspective how much time I guess really passes as Killy's walking through the megastructure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's more like you gotta see it as as a computer would tell it you. Like a computer would never say it in years; he would tell it in hours since it's been activated or something, or like some system tells you what's been activated. I think it's more like that kind of mindset. It was thought of that, and in Blame, it's more like time doesn't really matter in Blame. You can just walk 1,000 years, 2,000 years, but nothing really changes. Nothing really is that much lost in the world, or like the creatures are never gone to begin with, because the Silicon Life safeguards, whatnot, is all still there, and all the builders and whatnot are still doing its thing, just going on autopilot, building forever, or just killing forever in a way. And even in a part of Blame, even all the structures get built up from the bottom and then reused again, or stuff like that. So yeah, it's really, yeah, something not like you see often, like in a world like this, that really works all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely very particular.
Mm. Read any similar stories or any other manga that you've been inspired by or just liked in general for this kind of stuff?
In terms of other inspirations for me, it's not super direct or anything. There's this Tumblr blog of a Blame sort of fan game that I found very obscure. I think it only had like 20 likes or something. The Tumblr person's name is BAC9, and they were working within Unity to make a Blame fan game, and it was some of the best content I ever saw, like trying to recreate Nihei's work. But the last update was like 5 years ago, and it's really sad. Like, as you were saying, some of these sort of fan projects just never end up taking off because people's personal lives get in the way. But I mean, the guy's work, he had a great grasp on like tech art and stuff like that. He was just, I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't heard of it before.
Yeah, maybe. What was his name again?
It was BAC9. Back 9.
C9. BEC9?
BAC9.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe look it on my own time.
Yeah, I think it's with an A, like a BAC. No.
A for Apple, yeah.
Yeah.
On a Tumblr. There it is. No dev blog.
No dev blog, okay. Maybe I know about this, maybe not.
I don't even know how I found it. It's incredibly obscure.
Have I heard of this? I might know about this one.
It was essentially going to be like this walking simulator within this, I think, like procedurally generated city environment, sort of similar to the one in Blame. Yeah, have you seen it?
Think I did. Fuck's sake.
Oh boy.
Nah, never mind. It's a problem with these sites. Just. Oh well.
It's
maybe.
I think this kind of project invite like any project that is about Nihei's work is like, because of the concept of Nihei's, like the whole point of the appeal of Nihei's work is that like it is so big that's why I suppose it feels that it's so difficult to make a video game or a film or anything that is even remotely close to it, because really like the only thing that like the level that we're talking about to make it feel anywhere close to that is, I would say, like, I don't know if it would be a good direct comparison, but the anime film Akira, like that is where I believe the scale begins to be communicated in an accurate way. Like that animation is notoriously one of the best that was ever made by humanity in general. And further, it's one of the ones that took it's like a seriously demented amount of efforts to make, like making everything by hand, frame by frame, and hours of content is honestly insane. Even with modern technology, making that film would be insanely complicated. And I feel like Nihei's work is also invites a lot of that as well. Where like making, for example, procedural generation so that you can make a very large environments is very difficult. Making large, well, designing by hand a very big environments is also super difficult. It's just it's something that like really invites things to go really wrong in terms of scoping. You can probably overscope a lot with a project like this.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen obviously Akira multiple times, and yeah, I would also think like if Ultima West worked with me on a movie, man, I would just buy 10 different copies of that. Obviously, I would just eat it up. That kind of content because you can't really make it again, that kind of stuff, especially with CGI or other stuff. It can't really be done. I mean, yeah, if you have the best minds together, but even then it wouldn't really work on the scale that it did back then. And yeah, a lot of these, and yeah, some of these projects just made too big, made too detailed, and just doesn't go anywhere. Or like the other reasons I already said, where projects just failed, or it's just like over engineer, or like having too many events, or don't know what style they want to do, or like do they want to do stealth, do they want to do experimental, do we want to do both, do we want to and it goes on and on and on, and doesn't really translate well. Or like maybe a movie by Madhouse and another director in there just to make something interesting. I mean, basically anything than Polygon at this point, because I'm not really a fan of them. It's like the most recent works from Sidonia, or like Kaina, if you ever heard of that, because that's mostly newer work. But yeah, since Sidonia, I would suppose his stories has been more simpler, because Nihei knew from his fan base that the majority couldn't understand what his stories were about, and you have to reread them multiple times to really get what's going on. So he also wanted to get it more easily. And after 10 years of doing just everything in black, everything with ink, everything whatnot, he wanted to change it up, obviously, since Sidonia. And also in a deleted tweet, he also tweeted that his daughter didn't like Blame. It was more like a keen to what's it again, Attack on Titan or something like that, which is heresy.
Oh,
But yeah,
Wasn't there also a lot of pressure? Like isn't he getting a lot of pressure from like his publishers as well
yeah.
to make his
Also,
stories?
yeah.
Yeah,
In the Japanese master edition of Blame Geico and Blame Academia, there's a text at the back that talks about the cover that he's made. By the way, let me look that up too. Save this page in any case.
I think I heard of that. Yeah.
that's actually something that I find like, because I've also read a fair few number of mangas in my time as well, and I, in the end of it, usually they've got a what's it called, dedication, that they just like say thank you to a bunch of people, whatever. And I often find that people will say like when they finish writing the manga, like an author, they will say like, "Hi, thank you for reading. I've been miserable making this for 5 years now, and I'm glad it's over." So I wouldn't be surprised if Nihei had the exact same problem.
Yeah, he did. He basically said in that text, uh, it's been like 3 years since I worked on this because my editors wanted some. He had another design for it with. This is the cover, by the way, on the right side. The blonde one is supposed to be
Oh god.
Siwa, and the other one is supposed to be Seneca. Yeah, it
Is
looks
that
more
real?
like. Yeah,
Is that even
Uh,
that
that's
looks to
Nihei.
me like very, very weird, kind
Fan
of
art.
like fetishizing fan arts.
It's basically what those authors wanted, yeah. And that's basically what went down is he had another drawing, sent it to him. They said like, nah, we want something with boobs. We want something with big boobs, really cute, and
Ugh.
that sells basically. They just want something that makes money and what sells. So He made
Ouch.
this for like a couple of like 4 or 3 years, and he hated working on it because it doesn't represent anything that he's ever made before that or after that. Well, kind of, but
Yeah, I'd
that's
hate my
not.
life too if I was doing that for a living.
I
Yeah,
feel
yeah, and
bad
I have
for
a
him,
thing
man.
obviously because yeah, and yeah, basically beyond that, I worked on it for years, tried to make it, tried to go back and forth with the people. And it even went really personal in the thing. Where it said like, "It's been so many years since I divorced my wife, etc., etc., etc." Or something like that. It's the only bit that he really went really personal with all this stuff, and it's just it's a far cry from what the original looks like, which is this one. Yeah, it is, which is this one. That's original cover, which would work way better. It's still obviously way more cute than it is, but it works better for what's actually in the thing. So I don't know why the hell he made it for. Yeah,
That
yeah,
looks like it's for a completely different manga. Like the
yeah,
original still
yeah,
had some gritty design to it. Or, like what is this? It's like some lolicon. I mean, like Lolita style fashion manga, shoujo manga or something. It doesn't really
yeah, yeah,
communicate
yeah,
blame at all.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of the short stories are also pretty cute and pretty moe, but even then, it is still Nia style in it, so it doesn't really work like this stuff. For instance, it looks, also totally different, but it's still older and it's still Nihei
Uh,
in its kind of.
It's a weird idea even for them to do that because like I guess this kind of shows like that a lot of the time uh, that the people who own something don't actually understand what they own and what they have because
Mm.
oh boy like this is a gross misunderstanding of what the thing is about.
Yeah, and that's just a weak expression of that. Yeah, but for some reason after that, not the other covers were not fucked up for some reason. Like for instance, for the reprint of Noise, it just held the original cover, for instance, and all the other different Japanese versions that they reprinted. Like for Abara, for instance, just had drawings from the manga itself, but no weird cover. It's only this one that has this cover and nothing else. Just this one cover is just a really weird mix of stuff.
really
And
odd.
for like different versions, for like the Spanish version and like Polish version or something for Noise, it's just like a drawing from Noise itself and no different special cover or something. But yeah, basically he's just roasting his publishers in the bit in the back of the book. Maybe on more of a funny note somewhere in there, just not to mess with them too hard. But yeah, that's also something that it's been
Oh,
done.
feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, and his stories nowadays are more like, yeah, what are his stories nowadays? It's more like more simpler and simpler. Like his last story, Kaina of the Great Snow Sea, is basically just a guy that comes from a different place. Basically, a sort of membrane that's covered all over the planet. It's a bit as an ozone layer, you could say. Comes down from there and comes by a girl and there's a princess and he needs to save because two cities are at war with each other. So it's a basic, a really basic, simple story. And his newest work that came out today, Tower Dungeon, is again saving a princess, which already are scanned from our online, but I don't know the story that well yet. But it's not, you know, it's not something I wanna. Yeah, I don't know why he makes everything with princesses and other stuff. I know that fantasy has been longer on his mind. Like you see with in Blame, in with Sue, for instance, he has a whole armor on, and he has a sword, and like is with the other Silicon Life is sword fighting, etc., etc. And then in Biomecha, you have at the second part also some fantasy elements with sword fighting, wishes and whatnot, that kind of stuff. So he's already been on that mind track of having some fantasy. in there. Even Opossums had some fantasy in there. So yeah, I guess it's stemming from that. And of course, it's really popular now. So that's probably why it's being pushed more to get something out there. But who can say?
Well, I guess they have to sell and make money in the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's just make a payoff. But yeah, nobody's really gonna be much more interested in Nihei if you just make this really predictable stories. I don't know how predictable this newest is gonna be, but yeah, kind of was not. It's a nice watch to watch, but it's really goddamn simple. It's not even for us Nihei fans much to dig into to find anything basically. But he still continues his story of Toei Heavy Industries because that's also in this universe, which is basically with
Oh, really?
yeah. Toei Heavy Industries is also in this one and also in Tower Dungeon, also in his newest. And basically, what the overarching theory on that is that a sea ship, a sea ship that everybody's in chronicle sleep, and it's just a ship that just travels around the universe trying to find new worlds. Now, Sidonia was basically a work that goes about that. It goes about a ship with thousands of people in it and tries to explore new worlds. But except for sleeping, they're just going by generation by generation. And it's basically what happens with all these works. Like in Blame, Toei Heavy Industries itself is a sea ship. Is basically, or else is heavily implied that it's be. It's just a giant structure. It's not made of an other sort of material than the rest of the mech structure has an het AI that goes mad, wants to teleport itself out of the mech structure into the outside world, but we have no clue. But it has no clue how big the mech structure is, so it's just transported to different parts and just explodes, and it doesn't go anywhere. But basically, it was a siege ship at one point, but got stuck in the mecha structure. When it was built around, basically. And then after that, just every work except Abra for some reason um, got this theme of like Toei Industries is just transporting itself, warping probably through wormhole through different worlds.
Huh.
In a sense,
Interestingly, like there is an organization. I've read Abra as well, and there is an organization which is like powerful and everything like that in Abra as
mm,
well. But I guess the difference is that it's not explicitly and outwardly said this is Toei Heavy Industries. It just says like they just say that there's some guys who are really mad at the technology for making Abra, like the big
mm,
ugly black armor thing, goo thing. I don't know. It's attached to your spine. Um,
mm,
that the owners of it are really mad that the guy stole it, but that it's not said deliberately. This is definitely that it's just I guess it's implication I suppose, but wouldn't be surprised if it was Toho Heavy Industries as well because that's not the first time that he crosses that over.
yeah. I mean, also read in Japanese Master Edition that came out in 2015 or something like that. He also wrote a bit about it because it was 10 years that he published the thing, or 15 years or something like that. Yeah, but he said in there he doesn't really remember why or what happens in Abra, so he doesn't really know what was the general plot of it, really. What was the details, or why there's no TOF Industries? He just has no clue anymore why he did never put it in there. It was just in a whole different mindset back then. So even himself had no clue why TOF Industries is not specifically in there. It's just like,
Funnily, it's
hey,
kind of he pulled a bit of a Kiri himself. He doesn't remember the stuff he did.
no, he's just kind of like Kitty. He just forgot what the whole thing is about in the first place. Yeah, he kind of became that in a sense. But yeah, majority of his a lot of his older stories are like that. It's just kind of forgets why everything went on as it went on in his works. And then, yeah.
That's funny.
Mm. Did I have something else? I forgot. Mm, well, well. In any case, of kinda the story is almost ended. Now the movie is still to come on the line, but it's probably gonna take a long time, depending on where it's gonna be published. Probably Crunchyroll, because the original series was also put on Crunchyroll, so probably gonna be on there, but who knows at this point. And then for Tower Dungeon, it's out today and also ordered the magazine that's coming to for just the first chapter. And I'm not gonna buy them all or something like that because those things can be 1,000 pages long. So that's it's a bit of a space problem if I really gonna want to do that. Yeah, it's lots of yeah. And also, a few years ago in France, in Angoulême, I met Nihei at a huge conference in Angoulême. It was basically the biggest anime manga conference in Europe, or like the second biggest. The biggest one is in Italy. And even could ask him a question if the worlds were connected. And he would say with a laugh, like, "Oh, I'm gonna reveal that in like 10 years or something like that." So
I didn't even know
who
he went
knows?
outside.
Hmm?
I didn't even know he went outside anymore.
Oh no. Back then, yeah, but it was even before COVID, obviously. After COVID 2020, everything
Oh,
went
wow.
down. So yeah, he had no way to really attend anything else. So there's just no way to make interviews anymore or just attend anything. Even now, he hasn't make any interviews anymore for some reason. I think maybe with Tower Dungeon he makes a new interview, but who knows what's been going on since then? Or just had no time anymore. Just working on all this stuff. So yeah,
I've
Well,
actually
that's
always wondered,
lucky.
maybe you might be able to answer this, but over time, like his art and stories have become much more simple.
yeah,
Is it,
that's what I just said. Yeah.
yeah, like, do you think that's because he's not in maybe as a depressive state or the same state of mind he was in, like, while writing Blame, or is it maybe because
Yeah.
of like pressures from
No,
the
no,
publishers
no.
as well?
His mindset has been improved immensely since like Sidonia, I think, when he changed up his style and just went on with probably more people and just talk more to other people and just went on. You can also see it in his works, like with kind of, for instance, kind of Great Sea Snow. Great Snow Sea is the main characters is not immortal anymore. And he said in past interviews for Blame and Biomech and whatnot, that he was really afraid of death. So that's why he made all his characters immortal or almost immortal. They could just survive anything. And in Kana, suddenly all the characters are just mortal. They're just normal human beings, and they can just get hurt or get murdered or whatnot, and just nobody, yeah, and nobody really dies as often as the original works would do. So yeah, his mindset has changed a lot of the years since Blame and since Warren's Darker Better period, in my opinion. Some say just let's make me more depressed again, but I don't think it would probably get him at the same level again as he was before. So yeah,
He's
and
definitely
that
probably making a lot of bank now with all these Netflix adaptations and animes
yeah,
coming
yeah,
out for
yeah.
his
Polygon
works.
is
So
you could say sold his soul net, and it's all want to make it more CGI and 3D and whatnot. It makes sense for his works, but yeah, but not really for like the stories that it's presenting or what it is at the end of the day.
I'm glad he's doing very well for himself. But yeah, I miss those sort of darker stories that he used to make. But it also
Mm,
sort of reminds me of Evangelion. Like Hideaki Anno said that his depression played a big part into like the story of Evangelion.
yeah,
And he said that he doesn't feel like that anymore, and the recent Evangelion movies were not really as good. So a lot of people joke that like Maybe it was the depression that made the original so damn good. Maybe we should just make him
Yeah,
depressed
yeah,
again.
and it
Yeah.
may be just yeah, it may be just the limit that he had with the budget. Like he didn't have
Oh yeah.
a really big budget with the show, so he just had to make do what he was made to do. So he just tried to make it, of course, a lot experimental. Tries to work things out. But at the end of the thing, he just didn't have enough money to make a proper ending, and so that's why you have like the end of the Evangelion, which makes it even more difficult to understand what the fuck was going on in the whole story. But for the people that really like experimental stuff, it was great. And then the actual movies got an actual ending and you get more explanation. It just ties everything together, what's been going on in like even the novels and the manga, for instance, tries to ties everything together and what the fuck was going on. You get a more real ending than what you get in original series. But again, guess why people like the original more? Because it was so experimental and because it was just, you know, uh mind opening for the time, obviously, because everybody and the mother heard even back then. Even the English voice actor for Evangelion is a huge fan and collected everything of it. Even made some commercials, some radio commercials, a condom commercial between Asuka and Shinji having
Uh,
sex or something like that.
Oh my god.
what the hell?
Yeah, also somebody made a video on it. It was just on a cassette or something under her bed for years. She also mentioned it on a DVD set, like the Platinum DVD set or something, mentioned it in an interview that she had that still. And everybody wanted to look for years, but nobody could find it. But they have it.
Jesus.
Might not even exist.
Some
Well,
lost
it does
media.
exist.
That's
It's
great.
online now, but yeah, I mean, the end of Evangelion makes a lot more sense with that one scene when he was at her bed, but
Hmm.
you
Oh
know.
boy.
Oh well, yeah. But yeah, with Evangelion, it's just like they just had no money, and yeah, his mentality was just a whole lot different. But I don't know. I don't really hate the movies. I mean, I saw them in the cinema like almost back to back in 2 days, like in one day, two movies, and it was a bit too much for me just to consume all that. It was a lot to take in just to get the movie going, basically. Like, and a lot of people hated the third one, I guess, because it just meandered on and didn't really went anywhere. But I don't know. I don't hate the ending. It was just like, it got a proper ending and you get to see what you want to see. It's all still a lot of experimental stuff. So, eh. And even they went even meta with it. They went even in the making of a kaiju movie, which yeah, I can see the inspiration. Like it's big robots against big monsters, so that makes a lot of sense. Oh, I like that. I like the kind of stuff. So I'm not really mad about it.
I guess it's like you can't please everybody, especially with a fans base as avid as
Yeah.
Evangelion. It's like it doesn't matter how you finish it, somebody's not gonna like it.
No, that's with everything. I mean, there's just plenty of people that don't like Blame because it's just basically not just for them because they find it too boring because there's just too much, just too much walking away in it or just too much other stuff going on it.
Yeah,
But
there's
yeah,
definitely you have to be like I mean, one thing that you definitely have to admit with Blaine is that like although I personally love it and it's great, it's like you have to be patient because if you're not patient, you're not gonna really enjoy Blaine.
no, 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 no. But yeah, it's only 10 volumes, so it's not that difficult, especially if you're just hammered with like
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
sci-fi already and all that kind of stuff. Then it's not really that difficult, but you just have nothing in common with it. It's almost impossible to really get into it
Yeah.
for a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of other stories that really work well. So it's like Yokohama Kikoshi Kiko, for instance, YKK is also more of a more slow. It's also a slow burn of a show, but more human, more everyday life. You could say it really works better than it would, for something like Blame, something experimental like that.
Hmm. It's a difficult concept to
Yeah,
grasp.
Yeah. Let me think. Oh yeah.
I
You-
think I'm having some technical difficulties, so I might have to quickly leave and come back in if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I think I can hear fine so far, so I think.
Yeah. No
Okay.
problems on my side either, so I don't know.
Probably just an internet thingy.
By the way, have you read Door?
Not. Don't think. Hold on. Wait a second. Can you spell that? Because I might have and forgot maybe. Have I? I don't remember. There's a lot of things that I remember reading, and then I just forgot that I did.
Let me see.
Nick, I think it's echoing. Like I can hear myself.
Yeah. You don't. It doesn't really work.
Is there some feedback? Oh my god.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, that's annoying.
Let me search that up.
Yeah.
No, I don't think. No, I don't think I think I would remember this. No, I haven't. I haven't seen this before. It seems like today
No,
there's also an anime adaptation of it.
Yeah. Made in like 2020 or something like that. Her style is really reminiscent of Nihei, just this sketch kind of style, just these big structures. It's just you keep walking, you keep walking around, like. But this is more a real bizarre story, more like a more experimental story, you could say. Like,
I guess you're
it's
getting more to the
basically
level of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure kind of thing.
kinda, but also less than that. JoJo goes a bit more than that, you could say. But
Yeah, I
Door
suppose.
also is up there with experimental and weird ideas. Basically, you're just in this world with normal people and sorcerers, and you have the whole and you have the sorcerers world. And basically, the hole is basically where the sorcerers practice on people with their magic. So then you have Kaimon. His head has been turned into a lizard, and you have no clue by who. And every time he puts something or like somebody's head into his mouth, they see a man in there, and it tells him if he's the one that changed his head or not. And basically, he tries to murder everybody that has every sorcerer that he meets or they things. And that's Sama with Nikaido, the blonde here, for instance. And from there, it just goes on. It just does a really, it's at the same time a really weird story, but also a really comfort story, you could say. It's like you just get enamored, like from the chapter 1 you get enamored with it already, and just keep on reading like the weird shit that comes up, and even the stuff that's just like, oh, we go to an onsen or something, stuff like that. They don't do it in here. No, they go to a boxing match, or they go baseball, or they do other stuff. Even that stuff is fun to read. It's a good read in any case. And it has obviously it has a whole story. It's just not just these small events. That's more like the early manga, you could say. But in overall, it's just like a long time, just 23 volumes of the stuff, and just goes on and on and on and on. It's a great read. I have the whole thing on my shelf. And a lot of people thought for a long time that the author of Dorador worked as his assistant for Nihei, but in an interview, in a French interview in Atom, she said that he was never an assistant for Nihei because of the art style they thought of it. It's a really interesting work to go through and to read it. I would highly recommend it to read it online or just buy it. It's not really difficult to get to it. The anime is not finished yet, so can't really recommend that, but it's also pretty good.
I guess it's one of those art. Like I think it's an I guess it's an art style that like so I guess it's like the maybe towards the end of Blame. I would agree that that's kind of looks like that. But I honestly like the art style of the beginning of Blame better. I liked it, like some people think like the faces in Blame, in the original Blame, look like shit, and I would agree. Uh, but that kind of made it more interesting, in my opinion. I think you could really see that Nihei drew that by hand, and you could see that it was a
Hmm.
person drawing that face. Because Kiri's face is like it is really like distinctively grumpy little dude, and
Simple, yeah, 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 yeah. He really didn't know how to make emotions for his character, so they just have this blank stare or just look mad all the time, or just he just didn't really know how to do that yet. So emotions for crying or whatnot. I mean, I've seen Sibo crying once or something like that, or Kiri just 2 times mad, and beyond that, he just looks with a dead face, a dead fish stare or something at you.
yeah, which is honestly, like, I kind of liked that back then. I thought it was thought it was good, to be honest. I just thought it was
Hmm.
I don't know if I would necessarily say that it's good. I don't know if it's like necessarily good artistry, but it was certainly like something that I found it made it charming. It made it unique. Like it was work that you could actually like identify as this is particular to an artist. Whereas
Hmm.
like nowadays, I guess like the very fact that you can find other examples of or other works that look kind of like that kind of proves the point that like it's no longer a unique by itself thing.
No, 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 no. And they also just improved a lot over the time. Like every chapter or volume, it's just this stuff just changes over and over. Like the early chapters, it was still in the end of the 90s, so the hair is just like detailed. You see just every strand of hair, and later on it just becomes a black mesh, for instance, and stuff like that just changes all the time, and faces change and body types change, or like that's why Chibo probably went for all these bodies and just changed all the time. Or Kiri went into different outfits, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, I like the earlier chapters or volumes for the exploration. It just did a way more world building with exploration, just going through all different stratas.
He definitely made more of an attempt in the earlier parts of the manga to sort of imply that there was like civilizations or something existing within the structure. Like there was
Hmm.
those huge humanoid statues at the beginning that
Yeah,
got destroyed in a scene. Like, does that imply some sort of religion or like created by some other civilization, or was it like senselessly created by the builders? It's not really explained, but it is implied. Like
yeah,
as
yeah.
time went on, he really leaned towards the senseless building by the like sort of builder robots, and it turned into like this pure artistic architectural expression rather than actual like a world with a history.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's more like, yeah, it's just a world that's been lost to time. Like many parts which can be made by different civilizations or different communities, and it just was at some point in time a DDT or like a god or whatnot, and it's just nobody knows what it's anymore. And I mean, you also see parts in the manga like later on in like the middle of the manga. You also see screens of some people on a beach with palm trees and the sun in the background, and etc.
Oh
etc.
yeah.
That's also something like archival footage that they found somewhere and brought it over and just screen it all the time. But I have no clue what it is anymore because Keely has also no clue what Earth is anymore or what land is anymore, like you wrote like you saw in the book, for instance, or something like that. There's also some good anime that's called Pill Cocoon, and Pill Cocoon is also about this huge structure that's built and a team of archivists that try to archive everything, video, photos, evidence of what Earth was be and how everything fit together, and then you have a small mystery of how everything went together, even their own histories went together. It's a small element. Like I would recommend watching it if you want to search some the same ideas.
What was the name?
Pale Cocoon.
How do you spell that?
Gewoon Pala, and then Cocoon. It's just separate from each other.
Let me see. Sounds interesting. Actually, you might have to share your screen because I wasn't able to find it.
Ah, okay. Let me- Yeah, okay.
One of the things I really appreciate about Nihei's work, especially Blame, was just how procedural it felt. Like, it felt like he was just like making it up as he went along. And I really envy and admire that. I'd like to make something like that in the future, where I just
Mhm.
like a game where I just make it up as I go along. It just keeps going forever and ever, and I keep updating it with just more content. That would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. In the beginning, it was like that. Yeah.
Pale Cocoon. That looks
Yeah.
Never heard of that
Yeah, it's
before.
just a small OVA. It's basically like 15, 20 minutes. He is like archiving stuff of like people that just collecting photos or pictures or anything really.
Awesome.
Mm. And we also made like in the like a few weeks ago a relog of the chapter 1 of Blame, and it's basically just every page done by a different artist. That's on archive.org that we posted at. Let me see if I can find that. So it was really interesting.
That sounds really cool. I want to check that out.
Mm.
And you've always been just on the hunt for people who work on, like, well, basically anything Nihei related.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's in the beginning it was just trying to invite people for the Discord, for instance, or for the subreddit, just different artists or different game devs or other people, because I just want to see more of their work or like what they thought of the work or more about what they thought about Blame or the stories that they had or stuff they had to share or whatnot. And later on for the podcast, I just begin all the people that I've collected for that. I kept asking if they want to be on the podcast. So I have a few episodes about with different game devs, like the other game devs that also inspired by me, for instance, like the game sessions and redo, and also all kinds of different game devs that worked on stuff. Also, an animator that also worked on different anime, for instance, that worked more for like Korean companies that the Japanese often ask to make stuff for them, or just to have a few extra workers for that kind of stuff. So yeah, um, that's been what I've been doing. I'm kind of running out of those guys now because I don't. Because often of them don't talk anymore, or just are not active online anymore, or just work or whatnot. So yeah, good luck with you.
That sort of reminds me, like during PAX, I was sort of surprised to see how many people came up to our booth just because we had a volume of Blame like sitting on the booth. Like I
Yeah.
didn't think so many people, especially just like in Australia in Melbourne, would be so interested in it. But yeah, it was good to see. It's definitely becoming less of like a niche cult classic and sort of going into the mainstream, especially with its the things it's influenced as well. It's good to see.
Yeah,
Oddly,
yeah,
oddly so, because I don't know where that came from. Like, I don't know why now, out of all times, do people really like and care about that work? Because it's like it's come out like Blame came out a long time ago, didn't it?
yeah. 1997.
Yeah,
No,
so like I don't
yeah,
think it's exactly the type of work that you would like just pick up out of nowhere.
Yeah. I guess it's thanks to the movie and the reprint of the manga.
for sure.
Just
Yeah,
being published again, and like around the time when the movie came out, lots of different pages and places just talking about the movie. Even in shops, manga shops, you even saw people picking up Blame, for instance. After that, it kind of died down, and now he's been making new anime, new stuff. So it's getting more the rounds, and obviously, thanks to COVID, everything is being people have more time to read everything or to read more different stuff, so you get a lot more people on near stuff, so like Blams, and I guess that's why it's more become more popular. It's just more available, it's just easier to get.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a
It's
good
good
thing
to
to be
see.
available anyway.
Hmm. Well, I used to relook, by the way. It's just different artists that made every page.
Oh, it's all in color too. That's neat.
Everything, everything.
Almost everything is in color. Like I've also have my own page on here that's in black and white because yeah, I don't draw often. So
That is
Oh yeah, which one's your
extremely
page?
impressive. That takes a lot of patience.
yeah, it took about 4 or 5 months that we really worked on. A lot of people were not really constricted by the deadline. At some point, we even abandoned the deadline because people just didn't have enough time. But at the end, we should really put the deadline in to get people really to finish this, or else we're never getting to what we want with this thing. But eventually, we ended it, and now there are more on rules on when it needs to be finished. And yeah, you can see with the level of artists that some are really detailed and just draw a lot of stuff. Like this one is really detailed, and other ones is
Yeah.
just like but it's more for the fun. It's not a competition who draws the best stuff, obviously, or else it wouldn't be really fun.
Hmm.
Oh, by the way, it's still echoes from somebody. I hear it somewhere
I think
in the
Nick, you
feedback.
you getting feedback is too. I think.
Oh God, sorry, I'll mute.
Okay.
But yeah. It's been a long rest since he became really popular, or well, more popular thanks to Sidonia. It became way more popular than it was back in the day. Even when I came into it with around 2016, before the movie, was like still niche. Like the majority of the sites that I found was like from the early 2000s, or like uh now I don't see anything anymore because it's like copyright stuff or other ideas is just getting in the way of that. So a lot of people just don't do that kind of stuff anymore.
It's good
Yeah.
to see this sort of dark cyberpunk aesthetic being kept alive. I feel like cyberpunk as a whole sort of peaked in the 90s with like anime like Akira, as you said before,
Mhm.
and Ghost in the Shell.
Mhm.
Nowadays, it feels like it's getting a bit too clean in terms of aesthetics. And it doesn't just feel as grounded and gritty anymore, which I feel is kind of sad. But it's good to see some people are still interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah. The majority nowadays is just fantasy. Science fiction is being more abandoned towards the early 2000s. I would say. Like in the 90s, you had a lot of OVAs about with cyberpunks or like other genres for that matter, like Genocyber or like other fucked up OVAs like that just went all in. this kind of stuff. And then now it's just fantasy, isekai, and whatnot that's just really going around. I mean, you still have some works like Girls Last Tour, for instance. That's inspired by Blame, by the way. This is the kind of the same world, but then with two girls just surviving in a desolate world that's been destroyed by war, and nobody is left alive, basically. Where
I
like,
absolutely
uh,
love that anime. Sorry, that manga. I'm still collecting the volumes, but it's really charming, and I really love the world that they've created in it as well.
Yeah, I have the whole thing also on my shelf. It is a really charming, kind of depressing way. It's just like Blame but cute. It's like trying to have philosophical questions with like cute girls, which is like a really weird way to explain it. Some sure a manga like that, but that's basically how the whole thing goes. Or like you have other works like Girls and Tour, which is probably inspired by Girls Last Tour because it's basically the same two girls in a desolate world try to explore, etc., etc. Or Usumi no Hate, which also has really detailed art. Also with a cyber girl, no, an android that tries to find survivors in the world and buries everybody that has been infected with this kind of virus that everybody turns to stone, basically, or just everybody turns into cubes or like something of like some sort of stone because aliens came down, fucked up the whole planet, and then just went on with this kind of stuff. That's also really detailed, interesting work. It's like 6 chapters now or something like that. And in the server, I have also a lot of other stuff that collected over the years. Oh,
Oh yeah. One thing also interesting from PAX, some of the influences, or like some people thought we were influenced by games like Ghost Runner, which I think mainly came from like the speedrunning sort of fast-paced aspect of our game.
mm,
Like we would like to have some mechanics in our game where it's like timed segments between checkpoints. That would be interesting. Like uh hopefully, and we can also sort of unlock some of the movement mechanics so that you can gain a lot of momentum. But certainly we want to like really lean into that sort of speedrunning aspect of it for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, 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 yeah. Is there also like direct references to Blame or other works, or is just like literal references you can actually see, or it's just like the overarching world and creatures that walk around?
I haven't like
Um,
made any direct references in the game if that's what you mean, but I
Yeah.
might give a go like in one of the levels we haven't made yet. I might take like a panel and literally just recreate it. I don't know if that would be like
Ah,
copyright or something, but
I mean,
yeah.
Beyonce did it, and they're still around, so I guess you're good if you don't blow up too much. What you're gonna do, but
I think that like one thing that's something that hasn't yet been put too much in the game, and it's about to be like it's the next part of what we want to do is like there's a lot of characters who you're going to encounter, which are very much going to be inspired like in the way that Blame is, which is like when like how Kiri like meets a person and then just as fast as he meets them, he just goes away and forgets they exist at all, either
mm,
because they die or because they're useless. And like that's gonna happen. That well, at least we hope we're gonna be making it in the game where like you just meet a character and then the character like it shows up for like a few seconds maybe to like tell you a little story or whatever the hell, and then you just leave
mm.
him and then you never see them again.
Yeah. I can see something like that. And like Signals does also that kind of like also kinds of characters, androids you meet and just never see him again. Talk for a bit, never. Yeah. I've seen that in a few other works. I'm like, that's interesting way to think about it. I mean, After this game, any other ideas for another game, or just working on other sort of projects, or it's just to be in this game and it's just what the main focus has been?
I think that like the gist is that we have because as we said in the beginning, like we were students, we're students who came out of
Mhm.
like university coming together to make a game. We originally didn't expect to even get to the point of making a game that comes out on Steam at all, let alone
Mm.
go out of packs or anything like that. So we inherited a lot of very, very bad decision making into making games. But that's just like a byproduct of you learning how to make games. Like we have
Mm.
like basically like when you're making a game under university conditions, that's drastically different from you making a game in the conditions of like trying to make a commercial game that's going to be sold and things like that. So things like, for example, we have like very small things all the way down to big things. Like for example, one thing that I know that I would never do again in another game in the future is that I do not like writing story while I'm making the game. I
Mm.
think it's infinitely better to have a story written and understood and agreed upon before you start, and then you make the game, and then you change the story up a little bit to fit whatever it is you're doing. But
Yeah.
never like write the story as you go. And because we again inherited this kind of like bad workflow from university, because we were forced to go fast, because you only have 4 months to do the game.
Yeah.
We ended up not being able to do that, for example. So yeah, like every time that we come up with like the idea of like, oh, let's make another game after this, it's always the exact same thing that we say, like if we're making another game after this, we're never doing this exact same way again because it's so bad. Or next
Not
time we're
going.
definitely doing that because it's so annoying here. So yeah, like it's a lot of the time is not much about what we want to do next in terms of what concept what we want to do next. We don't know what we would do next, but we know
Mm.
a lot of things that we definitely want to do different for another project because this project is just dreadful in some ways, like to
Yeah.
like it's just unorganized. That's the what I mean.
Yeah. 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 Not going the Nihei route again, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, we haven't had basically any time to design anything in the game. Like all the level design is pretty impromptu. Just make it up as you go along. And any pre-production documents we made like at the start of our project is now completely irrelevant. Like may as well just be useless. We don't refer to it anymore. And
Yeah.
Mm.
I haven't even had time to bake any of the lighting. So just all the lighting is completely real time. And so that's probably why you couldn't really play that earlier
Mm.
build on your potato computer.
That's right.
We
Yeah,
haven't done
like
any
we have a lot of
optimization
problem
at
with
all.
Okay. 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 Okay.
More time, more planning. That's what we want to do for the next one for sure.
that. Yeah, if
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
short answer. Like if we don't have a concept, oh boy, we definitely have one thing. We want to make before we make a game, we're gonna make a Bible of documentation, and then we're gonna make a game.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Sounds
Then you
great.
can put some art in there and sell that as an art book. Boom. Even more stuff.
No, not even just an art book. There's other more boring stuff that also needs to get done as well. Like for example, we one thing that we definitely need to do that we didn't do for this one is we don't have naming conventions. So the assets in our game are a complete mess. Like the names are all like messed up, and like it's very very difficult to find
Mm.
within the documents of the game what you want.
Mm.
And that's like something that is super easy to fix. Like it's not like at the start of making a game, if you have a very very strict and specific document that explains the naming conventions for things, if you just stick to that, it's a very easy problem to solve. You just do it at the very start. But because we did it for university and we didn't have time to do things like that, and we didn't have
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be correct, now it's impossible to fix. It's a problem that you can't fix anymore because it would require us to basically go through every asset in the game and rename everything. So that's just
Remake the whole
impossible.
thing, basically.
Yeah, basically, you might as well remake the whole thing if you're gonna do that. So yeah, not even an art book. We're more talking about like oh, just
Concept
writing a
book.
lot of rules down, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, some other devs also said like it can be really time consuming just to get the story done and how you want to make a game, just how to start up and just work on it constantly and just try to run it, obviously. And obviously, you need to test the game a lot of the time. Obviously, even if it's out, then you need to test it a lot of the time. Like I saw another game like Bleak Fate Forsaken, for instance. That was also like een Souls, Blame, Berserk kind of game, where also you explore a huge world which with as an end goal. I don't remember what it was anymore. And it was also impossible with all the glitches. It's so many problems at the start of it. Like it wasn't looked like it wasn't even tested yet. So a lot of people were memeing on that, and then later on it got more and more uh fixed and became more playable. It's like it's some type of fixing like with No Man's Sky. At the beginning, it was impossible to play and to get to the worlds, etc. And then they just took all the complaints and critique and whatnot and the memes and just put it in folders and just worked out what to need to be done at the game and just how to fix it. And now it's a best-selling game. So yeah, that's one thing you could do to fix the whole thing, basically.
Yes, I think it's like one of those situations where like eh, it's not it's less about like if you want to, like if it's possible to fix it, more if you want to, like because this is the first game we're ever making outside of university and without guidance, anything like that, so we're just doing it ourselves. So we lean more on the idea of probably just like finish this game, get it done, and have it shipped and done, and then
Mhm.
on the next and then just instead focus all your efforts into making a new game that isn't going to have these problems to begin with, you know.
Yeah. Also, heard from another game dev that I interviewed, Cookie Cutter, that's also inspired by Nihei. It's more of a drug trip, you could say. He also said, like in the early stages of the game, he would just rip out pages of blame and smoke them. It's a cigarette or something like that. That's some weird
That
stuff.
is pretty metal.
Kind of a weird idea to do that, but hey,
If it works, it
you
works, I
have
guess.
yeah. It was more of a joke that he did it, but hey, it was a small detail. And here's my
Yeah,
homepage. Also took some time to make, but hey, it worked out fine.
it's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
The big statues.
yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Are you guys also into other kinds of games?
Nick, you'll go first.
I'm a big fan, as I said, Half-Life, Portal, but I also really like the Dark Souls series, which is probably
Mm,
the only fantasy-related thing that I'm into, because even that is like its own sort of j- like subgenre of fantasy. I really appreciate the story in that game. It just
mm.
feels, I don't know, just the worlds that they've managed to create in those games, especially Dark Souls 1. I really appreciate the world design. And I hope I can make a world, like an interconnected world like that someday. But yeah, that's probably it for me. I don't really like the fantasy genre outside of that.
Mm.
I am a big fan of Dark Souls also. I like fantasy and everything like that. It's more like fantasy isn't really something that I go out of my way to say. Like it's just something that kind of happens. Like I happen to know a lot of fantasy things which are really good and that appeal, but it's not something that I go out of my way to try. I more enjoy. I like stories and games that have a concept that really that drives me usually, or a mechanic or something like that. Like that's usually what gets me going in a game. Like for example, one type of game that I like to play a lot is I love playing card games because that's just
Ah,
pure mechanics. It's Card games are just like, before you make a good video game, make a good card game, and then you're gonna know how to make a good game in terms of mechanics. Because if you, I would probably say that it's much harder for you to make a good tabletop game than it is to make a good video game, because a video game has a lot of salad dressing. You can just like say like, oh, this game is terrible, but it looks very visually nice, or it has a very nice story, or whatever. Doesn't matter. You can mask the flaws of your game with a lot of things. But one thing that you absolutely cannot do is, if you have a tabletop game that isn't fun to play, it's a guarantee fail. Like, there's nothing else that you can do to draw the player in, because you can make the game look nice, you can make the game look cute, whatever you want. But if the tabletop game isn't, fun, then you're doomed. There's nothing else drawing you to the game. Which is why, I feel like the excellence behind making a good board game is something that really, really like makes, at least for me, like, if I can make a board game that's really good, then I have no doubt that you can make a terrifyingly good video game as well.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I mean, even back in the day when you just shipped out a game and just couldn't fix it anymore, or just couldn't get the bugs out of it or other stuff, then it's going to be even more difficult. You just stuck with the bugs that's on the game. And obviously some games work with that and just enhance the game in some way, with like Skate 2, for instance, like that kind of game series that got that thing going.
Yes.
But yeah,
that is taking video games to another degree altogether. It's making, what if you don't make a game, you make a shit post that grows too large.
Yeah, kind of like that. In a sense, that works on its own. It's like something like Postal. Yeah, the Postal is basically just a shit post.
Just shit post as much as hard and as much as you possibly can, and see how much see if it works.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite games probably be like the Dead Space trilogy. That's probably like
yes.
For the aesthetic and for the huge structure you walk around with all the creatures that just can pop up at any time. Like, it's gonna be a bit more predictable after a while if you play it enough times. But it's just like the designs, the structures, the weapons, all the stuff you can do in it is just so great about it. Or like games like, I don't know, I'm also a big old FPS game fan, like more retro new FPS games, like games like Blood, for instance, if you ever heard of that.
Blood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's also a great FPS games with like all the controls, how you control dynamite or how to shoot, or like with the environment, the atmosphere. It's just great. The story doesn't matter, but it's just great how to play the kind of stuff. Or like I'm Fury, as I'm playing out the DLC that came out Aftershock. Aftershock. It's also great. It also runs on the original Duke Nukem engine. It's also a great way to play that, or like other games like that, or Dusk, for instance, also is great.
Oh yeah, we've actually met the developers for Dusk.
Oh! They were also on there.
Oh yeah, I've met them in the previous. I've met them in the previous packs, and I've met them this packs again. They're very nice. They're very, very cool people. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. I mean, own a game obviously too. So yeah, and they work with New Blood, so they have also made a lot of other games like Faith Unholy Trinity.
That's
like
right.
80s. Also, this 80s looking game, like a pixel game with this cutscenes like it's being rotoscoped or something like that, and I'm baked into that style. And it's just like it really works. So all that kind of games. It's like my more favorite games, like the more underground stuff, obviously, for the stuff that I'm into in general.
I really love Dusk, and actually all the New Blood games. Like I recently played a medieval, and I really appreciate one of the weapons in that game, where it's literally just a staff. Like you just summon entire planets and shoot them at motherfuckers. I find that really, really cool. Like I feel like games nowadays, especially AAA games, don't really go for that high concept, weird kind of stuff anymore. So yeah, I really appreciated that.
I think like the closest thing we have to that in AAA is Borderlands. Like that's the closest you've got, really. They're like that they make guns. They'll like the name of the gun is, I don't know, Ass Blaster, and then it shoots fireworks, whatever. But that's not quite the same thing.
I would really like to make like a sort of boomer shooter style game someday. I've always really liked FPS games with a wide arsenal that sort of like interacts with each other. So, I mean, I'm not a good programmer, so that'll probably never happen, but I can dream. Are we alone? Wait,
I think so.
this is our podcast now.
Yeah, it's my podcast. It's our podcast now, mate. This is an Australian production now. I wonder if it's still recording, actually.
I have no idea what's going on.
His internet connection might have failed.
Probably.
That is pretty funny. What if this is how the podcast just ends? It just cuts out, and you have to just voluntarily quit. This is the end of the podcast. Everyone.
I think he said his Steam Deck overheated.
Oh, he might have been doing this interview on Steam Deck.
That's crazy. That's interesting.
That's pretty crazy.
I haven't managed to get my hand on one of the Steam Decks yet. I wonder if
it costs like $1,000.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind
insane,
owning one of those, to be honest.
Oh, I would too. Like it makes commuting anywhere a lot easier.
Oh yeah. Like I've got a PS Vita. I really love that thing, but there's just no games that you can play on it.
There's two games.
Yeah. Oh, he's back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, Steam Deck overheated, so I had to restart the whole thing.
Impressive that you have been doing an entire interview on that.
Yeah, I mean, it works. My laptop had some audio issues, so I had to abandon that. So this works better in general. But
It's
yeah,
basically just like a
Medieval,
handheld.
yeah, I also played it. That was also pretty good to play, but it was also a bit too high end for my PC to really play. Maybe on my Steam Deck it will work better, but a Medieval gets also really hard, way harder than Blood, or like harder on the lower difficulties. I would say, like first the lower difficulties of Blood are easy, and then the other two is just like borderline impossible to play. That's what it felt like with a Medieval in my way.
It was pretty difficult. But
yeah.
the aesthetic of that game is so awesome. It's like it's in Unreal Engine. It's got really pretty lighting and even a ray tracing mode, but the weapons are just like these really well done 2D sprites. It's really cool.
Yeah,
I have to play that game. I haven't played it actually.
Great game. Really cool. And you got to play Dusk as well if you haven't.
I have bought the game and I didn't play it. I have the curse of buying games that I never played.
Bruh.
Yeah.
Shame. Huge shame. Yeah, the majority of these old FPS games are just really great to play. I mean, there's also a lot of others that are just not great to play. Like for the channel from CV11, if you ever heard of him, that's also a channel that just covers a lot of different artists. Different games.
Civi, love that guy. Great YouTuber.
Plays a lot of different games. It's just like borderline impossible to play, or it's just like so broken that it's just funny to see what the fuck they can also just put into it. It's just
It was really funny to watch him play through Daikatana. I remember
I
that series quite
Ah,
fondly.
Daikatana, that game, man, that game.
yes, man, yeah,
That was
yeah.
a hell of a game.
Yeah, it's just like he wanted to make his own game, his own franchise, his own thing, and it just all fell apart. It's just like the beginning of the
Daikatana
game
was
was
such a
really
game.
slow. You didn't get through anything, and then later on it becomes the game that you actually want to be. And then never played it myself, but hey, it's just like you know,
It's a very funny experience.
mm, or like all the Russian made games or like Eastern Europe made games. There's also just weird Caucasians of all kinds of genres that put into it and just have the weirdest stuff just to sell it, but it doesn't really work altogether, or it's just this. In any case, he just plays a lot of different games. Or for Capstone, it's also a really well-known company of back in the 90s. They just make these crap-tastic games that just everything just breaks all the time, or it's just not implemented well, looks really cheap, or like everything is just wrong with it. It's also and those games are also on Steam on some reason. Like somebody is putting them on Steam. I don't know. Is it Capcom themselves? Is it somebody else? I don't really know who the fuck will put that on Steam and for people to play. But yeah, it's there. I don't know why people would even try that kind of stuff.
The funniest part is that it's not free.
Yeah, yeah. How the fuck is it not free? It's from like mid '90s, early '90s, or something like that. How the
Like, I don't think there's anybody who actually saw that come out and remember it.
No, no, no. I saw a few comments that said that they play it back in the day, that nostalgia and was great or something like that. But that's just probably pure nostalgia talking. That they just played a
Yeah,
few
yeah.
levels. That's about it, and never really thought about anything of it.
I mean, there's no, can't really help it, right? Because if you like old games and you remember playing them when they came out, then well, it's kind of the playful for you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. If you just want to play what you want to play, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's kind of how it goes.
Mm. So you met on PAX or other places also people you can work together with on stuff, or just exchange ideas or like how the game looks and that's about it.
We have talked in the past about expanding the team into more people because making games as is difficult enough, and making it in a team of four for doing the kind of thing we do is a lot. Like, I think we've got enough programmers. I'm one of the programmers, and there's one more guy who's the lead programmer. In terms of programming, that's enough. But in terms of art, art takes a lot of time to do. We probably would need more people in order to make bigger projects that are more reliably and faster. So, in honesty, there's a future where, like, if we go forward with making more things like this, we 100% would be looking into getting more people on board to make art, especially of all things, because it's very necessary.
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I can't find Capstone, but it's like, oh no, you get board games and whatnot, so that's kind of irritating to look for, but oh well. We get what we mean, so whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I also did a vid in the past that I also interviewed the developer of Deathwish of Blood, the free add-on that you could play for it that he makes for like since 2011 or something till now. He's still working on the one of the last episodes, like a spin-off episode of the main story that he did, and he's every year just updating the game to make it even more weirder and and better. It's also just like it's almost like better than the main game, like Blood in itself. It's like Blood 2 if Blood 2 never existed, basically. Because Blood 2 was just also like a mess of a game that was just shipped out early and it just didn't work at all.
I
If
hadn't
you
played 1 or 2, so like I don't really know. But I mean, if you tell me so, then I'll keep away from that one, and I'll just focus on number 1 instead.
yeah, yeah. It's more for the people that know about it, really, and that's about it for that. And yeah,
Oh, my friend also disconnected. Oh no, he probably might have fallen out.
yeah, didn't want it to be on here anymore.
I think he just accidentally disconnected.
Yeah, of course.
Send him a text. Hold on. Oh, he's back. Okay, never mind. Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys have anything more to say before we stop this one?
Nick, you want to go first?
No, nothing much other than wishlist Garganta on Steam demo soon, and hopefully a full release by the end of the year. Very excited to get this one out there.
Yeah, I need to put the link up in the description. I kind of forgot that, but it was like last minute stuff that I had to put on. But yeah, great talking to you guys about the game and whatnot. I hope I can.
Thank you
find
very
some
much for
other-
having us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
thanks for having us on.
Sure. Hopefully, I can find some other some other people that want to come on. So, if anybody wants to come on, just go to r/netsphere or just on the channel itself, the comments down below and whatnot. You can probably find me there if anybody sees this anyway. Well, I probably post it on the Discord, obviously, in the subreddit, because that really attracts people. So yeah, I guess that's it then for this podcast. And like, subscribe, and whatnot. And see you next time.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.